100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together: the Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Freezer Podcast.
We are back. This is the Freezer Podcast, where we bring you a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience. I'm Sanjay, and alongside me, like always, for a third time, Fred and Matt. And we are back for a new season of what could be a wild
let's go.
one. What could be a wild one, but we're here nonetheless. Thank you guys, everybody, for being patient with the Freezer Podcast. I know we go on a little bit longer hiatus than a lot of other shows, but sometimes we all just need that little break, spend time with family, spend time with friends, and just kind of get away from it all, especially like this kind of stuff. That you're like, man, let's just let this air out first, and then we'll come back when it's all real. And this week it is real. Everybody's back. But hey, real quick, before we say anything else, let's make a huge shout out to Game On Wisconsin. They are, obviously our, proud sponsor here. And we want to just say this is an awesome time to be a part of this. Keep watching what we're doing. Watch all of our shows, Monday through Friday, even Sunday through Friday, sorry. And, see everything that we have going on with this program, because it is something booming and you want to be here, for when it, it's already taken off. So, thank you so much for joining us.
And
for that
shout out to all
it.
the creators that worked through the offseason while we were on
Yes,
hiatus. People
exactly.
were churning and
All
burning
those,
stuff out, man.
For all you guys that are 24/7s, that love to get that content, and you're just like, man, I need it every single week. You have those guys, because you know what? That's awesome that they're still pushing to get shows out every week, and they're doing a great job of it. Fred, did you want to say
you could almost say that we took a Rodgers approach to the offseason. We took a little vacation. But you know what? It's so did take one. Not to Maui. No. And we actually went on Twitter this offseason and talked to people. But anyway,
yes.
It's super good to be back. I'm super jacked. We talked about this coming into the season. We were a little, not sure, not really feeling all the excitement we wanted to. But just another manic Monday, baby. We're ready to rock. We got a lot to talk about. And I'm super jacked to start year 3 with a cyclone of chaos right now.
This was like an espresso shot to start your morning, was it not?
Yes. Yeah, and hey,
all right, we're going.
It's almost a great transition, because we just got a huge espresso shot a week ago when we just found out that we have some champions in our state. Let's give a huge shout out, obviously, to the Milwaukee Bucks. It's a huge thing for the state of Wisconsin to finally get over that hump of a championship again. We've had those, so many close, like, calls with all of our different sports, and we're like, man, will we ever get one again? And we did, and it was great. So huge shout out to them, and obviously all the fans of the Bucks. It's great to see that back in Milwaukee. But yes, guys, we have to talk Packers because we are a Packers show. And what a Monday it was. And the text thread for us was pretty crazy, because you know what? It was just kind of like, okay, 1 bomb, 2 bomb, 3 bomb. But I mean, it was just constant, like, attack of just everything for news. And let's just throw this right out there with Aaron Rodgers, obviously making the big announcement. Technically, he didn't technically do it himself. He obviously leaked that he is obviously, on the verge of returning, barring any contract, negotiations that are being held with, the front office. But for the most part right now, we are reporting that, yes, he will be there for training camp, or at least be there for the season. Maybe he might not come back right away for training camp. I guess that really wasn't clarified. But the biggest question unknown since April 20th, or when was the draft? Sorry, it was later. It was April. Well, I think it was the end
April
of April,
29th. Right? Yeah.
So the biggest question on everybody's mind, and I think our good friend Perry said it's really really good or really well. Sorry. Having all those people ask you, "Hey, man, what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers?" And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just this average Joe from Wisconsin, like, or from Appleton. I don't know what's going to happen to Aaron Rodgers. But that was the question that everybody that is the average fan wanted to know from obviously us or everybody else in the Twitter world, and we finally got the answer. So, Fred, what do you think of this huge news? Obviously, that kind of just dropped today.
Oh man. You know what? I'll touch really quick on, the people asking what's going on and what I think Aaron Rodgers is going to do. My wife is probably going to chime in about 2 seconds here on the chat, but she was adamant about trying to get me to spill my beans about what I thought was going to happen and how I thought it was going to all play out. I didn't really talk to people about it. I didn't really, I kind of shut everything down and I said, listen, I'm not going to say anything because I don't know anything. And until I hear it come out of his mouth, it's really hard for me to make assumptions. And I think the biggest problem we have in sports today is and the greatest thing and the worst thing is social media. It's fantastic. We're able to do things like this. We're able to interact with people. We've made a ton of friends. But in the same breath, it's super easy to like spread situations, accusations, lies, whatever you want to consider them, about someone's career or their position or anything like that. That being said, whether or not I believe that Aaron Rodgers handled it appropriately is probably still up in the air. I'm super interested to see what he says when the mic is put in front of his face and he has to address the situation, because I think that will speak loudly as to who he is. I've always stood behind him and admired the fact that he doesn't pander to the media, because I think that can be a super slippery slope. And we've seen people do that. We've seen people get in arguments, and he's kind of held himself above that. People can take that as being arrogant. I think it's always been smart. I mean, it's so easy for media to twist and manipulate things. We see that on a daily basis. Why would you want to do that? So it's very interesting. I'm very anxious to see what he says. And I kind of figured this was the route that was going to happen. I don't know yet, again, really how to feel completely about the concessions that the Green Bay Packers are doing. I don't know if that makes sense. We've never done that before. It's a definite change in some sort of level of hierarchy and authority within the Green Bay Packers organization. And Aaron Rodgers, he pushed the bounds of that. And I think I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it seems to be making some moves. And that's a whole other aspect we could get into. But
yeah,
I'm super excited. The idea of having him for one more year. I'm glad that it's not a complete shit show and we've lost him and we have nothing and he retires and it's whatever. I'm going to embrace this one more year, hope that things can kind of get figured out, and maybe we get him for a couple more years. I know a lot of people are pissed. A lot of people don't like the way that he treated the organization, the way that he's acted. But bottom line, he's been pretty much flawless for 16 years. He's led us to a few NFC championships, a Super Bowl. He has not had a lot of issues outside of football. For the most part, his dedication has been to the Green Bay Packers. So I'm going to hope and I'm going to pray that continues.
Yeah, Matt, I really want to, before I obviously give your take on this as well, but let's just also, I want your take as well when you give that one. Just your thought of also on the other side of it too. Like, what's the relief side of maybe, the front office, obviously Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, Mark Murphy, obviously the big, shareholders meeting was today. And obviously everybody had that question on their mind going through it, because this news was kind of dropping like basically after it. So people were really like kind of just, that was like the biggest question still. Hey, what is going on? How did this all happen? Blah, 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 blah. But real quick, why don't you even say with that alongside obviously the Aaron Rodgers news for you?
Well, I think for the front office, I do believe there's got to be a little bit of a relief there, because you're heading into the season, and I know just from us, like we did kind of like a vibe check like a couple of days ago, like how are we feeling about the season coming up, and we're all kind of like, and you think about it, you're coming off an NFC Championship game, you were that close again to the Super Bowl. We should be just super excited about it, and so to have this what appears to be resolved before the players have to report, I think is a huge bonus in a weight lifted off them. That said, if they're making concessions, I think a little bit, maybe it's them having to tuck their tail a little bit, maybe not their proudest moment having to do that. But I think that maybe there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 players in the league that you maybe bend a little bit for, and you do something that's unconventional to your normal, policies and procedures. And I think Aaron Rodgers is one of them. And so I'm happy he's coming.
Let me quick interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Let me just quick interrupt you on that. And sorry, I don't want to do it too much, but are you shocked that the Green Bay Packers, of all organizations, an organization that's always stood very firm in their beliefs, and I think arguably, like, that was a big argument. I know Pat McAfee talked a lot about it. Like they concessioned for Peyton Manning, for Tom Brady. You have to do that. And when he brought that up, I thought, I agree to a point. You can't do it for everybody, but I'm a little shocked that the Packers are actually willing to say, we screwed up, the proud franchise they are and the proud GM that Gutekunst is it a good thing, or do you think it opens up maybe a wormhole to potential other things happening down the road?
It's hard because they've operated one way so long and it's worked out for them. But I think they know that going to a third consecutive QB that's a Hall of Fame, career arc is going to be tough. I know they believe in Jordan Love and they think he's going to be the guy. But Aaron Rodgers coming out last year and having an MVP season clearly was a huge wrench in the whole operation. So I'm actually shocked, not shocked, but I'm surprised they did, are going to make some concessions. And I guess it shouldn't be, because they did, when they re-signed Aaron Jones in the offseason, to me, that was an uncharacteristic move to spend money on a guy like that in that kind of position. So maybe they are willing to change and modernize, if you will, I think, which has been Rodgers' critique. Go ahead, Sanjay.
I mean, I'm not surprised in the sense of where we are today compared to where we were with Brett Favre. Social media, how much everything gets blown up in your face as an organization, as a franchise, all that stuff. Was it huge stuff what happened with Favre? Yes, it was. But we were waiting for him to hit, the airport. We were waiting for him to land. That's what we were waiting for. Now we're just waiting for him to just tweet. That's the crazy thing about now, is that this stuff kind of blew up in their face so much quicker than, anything that the Favre stuff did. And obviously there was obviously the battle of, him retiring, unretiring a couple of years. But I'm not surprised based on hey, look, can we just have damage control and just handle this? And let's understand that this is, yes, he's not like everybody else. We can maybe make an exception. And I don't think there's going to be an exception like this ever again. I mean, maybe there might be, but you're talking about one of the pantheons of the sport, or of this franchise. I think you're going to make an exception.
Three people in the history of the Green Bay Packers could probably challenge the front office and challenge change and it work. And it's Bart Starr, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
And I think that, and Fuzzy, or at least get drunk with them and talk about it later. I do think though that a lot of people, and I'll probably catch a little flack for this, I think a lot of people don't like it. And I think a lot of people think shut up and play. And I understand that aspect, but in the same breath, I would challenge those people to think to themselves, how many off seasons did we walk around thinking, oh, we just don't ever sign anybody? How many off seasons did we walk away where we just weren't impressed with what the front office was doing and putting players in position to win? Now, does that always, result in wins and championships? Maybe not. We've been very successful in the way we've done things. But I do think at some point you have to look at how can we change the culture and the system that we ran. We praised last year, guys. We praised what LaFleur did when he walked into that franchise and changed the culture. Not got rid of, but updated some of the historic moments that were lining the walls. Understanding that the 60s and 70s the 60s were a fantastic time period. But there was times that are recent that we need to celebrate just as much as them. And so I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is trying to hold the Packers literally over coals, as some people think. But I do appreciate the fact that he said, maybe you guys just have to look at things a little bit differently. And unfortunately, if he has to be the whipping post for it, I think he was willing to take that. And I think we might look back at this in maybe 10, 15 years and think, man, I'm really glad that he actually did something instead of us just kind of going about things the same way, because change is inevitable and we live in a world where change is constant.
I don't know what's more funnier, that you may have just used the term whipping post on a live show, or the fact
I'm fired up, baby.
happening. I know.
I'm fired up.
This is happening on a Monday, right before training camp. But hey, real quick, Matt, real quick. I just want to give a huge shout out for everybody that is in the chat right now. We have a lot of people viewing the show, and that is huge for us because we know we love you guys because we don't do this for anybody else but you guys. And so obviously everybody that's in here, Sam, Amanda, Neil,
That's a great point.
Nick, Leah, Stacy, Sharon, Juan, Katie, Don, Jacob, Jason, Jennifer. I mean, I can just keep going on and on and on. But thank you so much for joining. Keep chatting in the chat. We'll try to hit some of you guys' messages in there. We have so much to talk about, but we also know that you guys are what makes these shows happen. So we'll hit some of your questions as well. So don't worry, we are looking at it. At least I'm looking at it. So I'll try to get those questions out there. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Go ahead.
I want to comment on this comment because it's totally true. The temperature here in town, like between Favre and Rodgers, like people were like, okay, Rodgers, if that's how you want to play it, go ahead. You can leave town if you want. Whereas with Brett, it was like, please don't go. It was a completely different scenario. I always thought Brett was the more loved of the two. That's
but the thing is the thing with that though, and I get it, but like the thing is, we went that 30 years right with no quarterback, and that's not a disrespect to any of the quarterbacks in the 70s and 80s. But when we finally got one, it was like we cannot let him go.
It was like pinch me.
Right. Whereas now we've kind of felt like, oh, it's possible to like have another great one. We're much more able to kick that person out the door. So it's super interesting because I find that hilarious sometimes. And I also look at it in the sense of, and I love Favre. It's what made me love the Packers more than I've ever loved the Packers was when I was watching Favre. But it is funny because when you look at his situation, the way he toyed with things, the off the field issues, all that kind of stuff, and people yet still stood so firmly beside him. Whereas Rodgers, I think, has not had really any of those situations, and yet we're so willing to just push him out the door. And that's not an attack on their their livelihood or whatever. But I just think it scares me, and I feel like more people should be considering the fact of let's maybe try and keep him around a few more years because at best, Love needs a couple preseasons.
Anyone that wanted him gone is wrong, and anybody think that's now he's back, he's not going to give it 110% is wrong too. Absolutely, the grass is not always greener, and wishing Aaron Rodgers off was never going to be the answer. For me, it was like, well, if you really don't want to be here, then fine, go ahead and go. It's going to suck. We're going to go through some growing pains with Love, but clearly this team is a Super Bowl contender and on the short list to make it in there and win it with him in under center. I personally hope that this is like a 2-year kind of thing. I know it sounds like it's going to be a 1, and then maybe they'll reevaluate and see, if 2022 is still the possibility. I hope it is because I'd like to let Love sit for 3 years, ideally, and then let him go. Depends on Rodgers' play too. I mean, does he play again at an MVP level?
I think here's the thing. If that's the situation where you see how things are, so what does that mean? Is this like a measuring stick for Aaron Rodgers this whole season? What are you going to do for me, Goodkins? Are you going to get me Randall Cobb? Whatever that report is being made. Are you going to do something at the halfway mark that's going to please me and keep me, enticed to come back? Are we going to make a deep enough run with this same squad where I'm like, okay, I think we can keep doing it? Because here's the thing, like we've always been saying, is there a team that he could just go to next year anyway that's going to be better than this roster that's been constructed? Now, that kind of is a good segue to our next real quick topic is obviously the guy that he loves to throw to that, obviously there was a report that maybe now with his new restructure, we can maybe sign, to a long-term deal with Davante Adams. Mm-hmm. What about him? Are you going to really find another Davante Adams wherever you go? Heck no, probably not. I mean, there's only 2 other guys maybe, and I wouldn't even take him because we have the number 1 guy. But with him maybe signing long-term, what better situation do you have? Just tell me, Aaron, because I don't see one. So if you do really want to, exhaust your options and see what you can do, then fine, go ahead. But I'm just going to tell you right now, Jordan Love's ready to do this, whether you are or not. So what are you guys' thoughts, at least with Davante and his potential, long-term fit, not long-term fit, but his long-term, standing with the team, at least with the long-term deal. What do you guys think with that, especially with this, possible 2022 year, or maybe just the 1 year, the one and done scenario with Rodgers?
I hope the Packers bring him back because he's the best wide receiver in football. He and Aaron Rodgers, now that Rodgers is coming back, clearly are on the same page and they're finishing each other's sentences or getting close to there. I know he always wanted that. Jordy did that. And then you want him there when Jordan Love's take over. You're going to want somebody with sure hands, somebody who runs that route, crisp route, gets open and makes it easier for Love to throw, because the other guys in the roster right now aren't exactly route runners or guys that are considered to be, technicians at that. They're more so speed guys, long distance guys down the field. So you're going to want Adams there, just kind of a safety net. That said, he's going to cost a lot of money. So you have to be careful. You have to navigate this contract to make sure you're not setting yourself up for, a really bad situation a couple of years down the road. So you'd like to see him lock up. But if they can't do it, I guess I kind of would understand just because of the price point and considering they'd signed Bakhtiari long-term, Aaron Jones, you're going to have Jair Alexander coming up. Zadarius Smith is probably on the hook for extension. So you got all these contracts. Obviously Adams has earned it. So I would love to see the Packers bring him back because he's not only going to be, huge for us this year, but, for Love's development.
I would say it's probably something that Devontae and Aaron Rodgers will probably discuss because ultimately if I'm Devontae Adams, I don't see why I necessarily would want to stay with Love. I'm not saying that's how he feels. But I could very well see, if the transition happens after this year where it's for sure that Aaron Rodgers is going to be traded, I would assume that if that's the plan, that they will also most likely let Devontae Adams walk, which is interesting in itself.
Tag and trade?
But real quick, who's paying Devontae that money? Because he wants to. I think he's always made it clear. No, I'm saying he's made it clear that he's come into this league to play for money. He said that he was going to be at all the camps because he wanted to earn his money that he deserved, right?
Yeah.
So being the top paid wide receiver, I know you say everybody would pay him, but not everybody can pay him. Let's just be honest. There's only not everyone will be able to pay him. Green Bay really can't even pay him. But ultimately, he's going to have to make that decision of, okay, do I play the game of maybe he's back, maybe he's not, or do I just start planning my opportunity to go into a twinkle year and make a bunch of money and be done? I mean, if he goes to another team, realistically, he's not going to be good. He's going to struggle for a degree because obviously it's natural. Weigh your options.
It's probably going to be a crappy team.
Receiver, either highest paid receiver or quarterback. You can't have it both unless you stay here and you convince your Hall of Famer to stay here with you.
100%. And that, but you know what? But we've literally come to this conclusion, or we've come to this crossroad with NFL players for years and years and years of, you want a championship or do you want money? And 89% of them always go to money. And you wonder yourself, what the hell are you doing? And it's one of the things that I've never quite understood because, when you look back 10 years, go back to 1974, can you tell me who led the league in receiving in 1974? No, but you can probably tell me who won the Super Bowl. And that's the thing that I always, question with these players. But I'm just saying, if I'm Adams, obviously it's the best place to be this year. But when it comes to after this year, I don't know if that makes the most sense, especially if Rodgers is going to be out of the game.
The Packers have to protect themselves with this contract because he's 28 right now. And what's the shelf life for an elite wide receiver? Maybe 30, 31. After that, you start to dip.
Yeah,
and it could be before that. You have no idea. So the last thing you want to do is pay him. Obviously, he's balling out. And then in 2 years, he's not what he was. And you're on the hook for $25, $26 million a year. I mean, it's just not sustainable.
But you're not ever worried about the contract structure because they've always killed it with the way they structure the contract.
Right. So my next point was going to be maybe they structure this thing in a way where it's heavily front loaded, so he gets paid a ton up front. He's here for this year, and then next year if they trade him, they don't have this massive dead money hit that's on the hook for it. Right. Maybe they make that contract more lucrative for other teams to come and get him if he doesn't want to be here after Rodgers leaves. Because you don't want to let him go and not get anything for him. That's a huge waste. Particularly
that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing with both of these situations.
Yes.
Obviously, the Rodgers thing is you can't just let him walk in 2023 with a compensatory pick of a third round, for Aaron freaking Rodgers. And obviously with Devontae Adams, you want to make sure that you get something for him as well. And it's kind of like, okay, well, next year, if you're not making the phone calls immediately in January, then don't even try. Just try to get this gang back together because, I mean, you need to make these moves before even March hits, before free agency hits. Yeah. Because all these teams start prepping and figuring out what money they want to spend where. And if Devontae is demanding the big time contract, then that changes people's, evaluation free agency. So you have to make these decisions way before even the season's finished and understand that, okay, look, he ain't signing. So either you make that decision before, the playoffs or whatever it is, because here's the weird thing about contracts, right? Because especially in Devontae's situation, he needs to get this contract now. I know that there's a lot of people say that he can wait, but you don't want to go the entire season and then potentially get hurt, which he always does every year. He does get that one little injury that kind of like sidelines him for at least 3 or 4 weeks. And then that drops his price tag. So if I'm him, if I'm telling my agent, either figure it out now, or you say, look, I'm just going to try to go play somewhere else. So if I'm Devontae and I want to talk to my boy Aaron Rodgers, you might want to make your decisions real quick before you're, because I mean, he's got to think about himself. In all honesty, he cannot be thinking about Aaron Rodgers.
Should he get that Hopkins contract though? That's what kind of killed it.
He will get it.
Signed that ridiculous deal, like $5 million over the next guy that's closest to him, and force the Packers now to have to go. Maybe I'll pay him what, 27, 28. I mean, that's a ton of money.
But if you're gonna lose Rodgers,
it's the market.
I mean, think about it. You got to pay him. You got to pay Ja. You got to pay Zadarius. You got to pay, potentially Bob Tunyon. I don't know. Like it's
Gary,
Darnell Savage, Gary. So you just got to. I mean, look at this. This is you can't do that with the Hall of Fame quarterback. Yeah, I mean, you can only do it with the Jordan Love contract, with that little tiny dinky one, but you can't do it with an Aaron Rodgers contract. So even if everything works well and you don't win a Super Bowl, do we necessarily want Rodgers back? Because he's going to want an extended. He's going to want a big time contract. He's never been shy to say, "Oh, I'll take a cut."
Yeah,
that's a very good point. I was interested in. I'm glad you brought that up because as the front office, that thought has to go through their brain. They have to start thinking, okay, do we want to put all of our money into this team because you think about Bakhtiari, Gary, Zadarius, Savage, Amos, Jair, Kenny Clark. I mean, all these tons of talent, Bobby touchdowns, all that stuff like that. They could add more pieces and they could be really, really good. Aaron Jones with 12 off the books and with Devontae Adams off the books. Now, I don't know if that's something that they really necessarily want to think about, but it is almost one of those things where it's like, okay, if you do keep them,
they're thinking about it.
You're going to be very, very strapped for a very long time.
They have like two guys that put every scenario in place. They have
absolutely.
Everybody.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point is that they're all thinking about this right now. And I'm wondering, where are they more focused on ultimately and thinking like, okay, we put our chips on the table. We we bring back Aaron Rodgers. We let Devontae play. We try to get him in a long-term contract, but we're not going to try hard enough. And then we're just going to you have all this money then to play with. You have all these draft picks from trading, and you have a very solid team. We've talked about this many times throughout the offseason, guys, about how if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, we feel confident that, yes, Love has a ton of question marks, but the team itself is pretty dang good to the point where you could maybe look at going and getting a free agent quarterback or a free agent wide receiver that you're excited about, along with maybe 15 draft picks. And you have a very solid team going for another 10 years. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to like the normal person. But when you really look at it, that's a potential situation.
It is. And just real quick, clearly, I believe the Packers do want to move on from it. I think that they want to be ahead of it. They'd rather get rid of him a year or two too early than have to overcommit to a guy who's near.
They've always done that.
100% agree, and they should still relatively stick to that. But what happened was Aaron Rodgers came out and had an unbelievable off-the-charts season after coming off two kind of whatever seasons. That's why they picked Jordan Love. And if Aaron Rodgers, if they duplicated last year's win total and still won to the championship game, but he threw like 26 touchdowns and 5 picks, they would have traded him. They said, what?
He's the anomaly, though.
You're gone.
He's the anomaly.
He throws 50 touchdowns. He looks unbelievable. He looks like he's 27 again, and he forced their hand to go, okay, we'll put a pause on that. That's why this makes this
so hard. Because you have to. You're not owned by an owner. You don't have Jerry Jones saying like, hey, look, I'm never getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. Like, you don't have that. So you are catering not to just, like the city of Green Bay and its, fan base and its, board of trustees. You obviously have Mark Murphy. Like, this is a whole different situation that no other team has at all. So that's why this is so important for these next, 2 preseason games for Jordan Love to show out, because that's why I'm trying to say, let him play the whole game, because you might as well just see what the hell you have in him, because this is going to change your dark years that we've seen plenty of, that, Fred, the old timer over there, has seen plenty of. And
How old are you, Fred? Are you in your 50s now?
I mean, I'm not that old. Like, what in the world, dude?
I don't know, dude. Am I missing something?
Shots fired. All right, so that we've all seen, right? We've all seen those dark times. And do you really want to put your organization, after you just put that beautiful new area right behind your stadium that you thought, oh, we're just always going to have success. We're going to be raking all this money in. We're putting all these new business districts all over here. We have a beautiful Aaron's Hill. Well, guess what? That Aaron's Hill is going to be completely, full of weeds if we have nothing but financing.
AARONS, Aaron's Hill with an A.
Yeah, well.
That's who built it.
Well, hey, look, let's move on real quick. Before we do that, actually, it is 8:30. So real quick, everybody, thank you so much, obviously, for joining us today. It is obviously our welcome back show into the new season. We have training camp, obviously, this week. And, obviously, there's so much more to, unplug out of this entire situation. Also, obviously, what may or may not happen with this team. But thank you guys so much for joining us on this ride. We're going to take a quick break. We have a little, fun little commercial here for you guys too, so you guys can check us out. I told you, follow Game On Wisconsin, because we have a lot of great shows. We have a lot of entertainment that we can give you guys, providing you guys not even just on shows and things on the video side of it, but check out the articles on the website. We have a beautiful website with a lot of great writers that have a lot of great content. So there's so much Packer information that you guys can take in from Game On Wisconsin. So just follow that, and we'll be right back. So don't go anywhere.
What's up, everybody? It is your boys from Lombardi's Bar, Dan the bartender, Todd, Jimmy. We are here to let you know that we have the first ever Game On Wisconsin party coming to you live at the Green Bay Distillery, September 19th. Put it on your calendars now.
September 19th? Is this my birthday party, guys? No, absolutely not.
Farthest thing from your birthday party. We're not celebrating Todd's birthday. We are hanging out at the Green Bay Distillery, drinking some alcohol, eating some food, and watching NFL football. Be there.
All right, we are back. This is the Freezer Podcast. Welcome back to us. You know where to follow us on all of our social medias. You know what happens when we have our Sweep Studios page up and running. We've been posting a lot of new pictures and images, obviously, of what's been happening with all the breaking news. And then now that we're back into our shows, you'll see all of our content there. So you can check us out on the Sweep page, obviously on Facebook and YouTube. And all of our handles they're all right here for you guys on Twitter, so you can engage with us on that. And obviously, you can find us here on Game On Wisconsin every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time for all you Easterners out there, so 8 p.m. But yeah, thank you so much for following us, and we love the heck out of you. So, boys, what did we just get done there? Okay, so obviously, what does this mean? So I think, we've kind of laid it out just on that last little couple seconds there about what this means for Jordan Love, and then what it kind of means for his future. But then what does this kind of mean for also Brian Gutekunst? Now that we've kind of just seen, you guys mentioned it earlier, us kind of setting a precedent now, oh, we're going to bend over for, a certain player. And do you want to go down that squeaky, squeaky road? But does this mean anything different on how you view Brian Gutekunst, or you still under the same, are you still feeling oh, in Gut we trust and blah, 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 and all that stuff, even with all the bad communication and all that's kind of started this whole thing in the first place? What are your guys' thoughts on Brian Gutekunst?
Well, I think he's going to have to overcome that perception that he's, a poor communicator, and he allowed on his watch this to kind of deteriorate. Although you could equally spread the blame to Mark Murphy and Russ Ball and whoever else. I think a lot of this even predates Brian Gutekunst as general manager. Probably goes back into the Ted Thompson, certainly in the Mike McCarthy days. So I think what it shows us, though, is he's willing to admit a mistake, that maybe his philosophy wasn't correct. He's willing to listen and hear a different perspective and how to build the team. And I think that not only bodes well for him, but it bodes well for the rest of the roster, the players that show, hey, he's listening. He's willing to take a criticism. He's willing to change himself, if it's for the betterment of not just him, but the team. So I think it's good. And it helps him, again, kind of shrug off that notion that maybe he's too old school and stubborn for his own good. And he shows everybody, hold on a second, I'm capable of this.
Fred?
Yeah, it's crazy. I never thought that would happen, if I'm being totally honest. I mean, we've
Fool me
heard
once.
through different programs. Yeah, we've heard over different programs. I mean, McAfee and Brandt and everybody talking about how Gutekunst is basically the most powerful person in Green Bay when it comes to decision making and everything like that. So to me, I tip my hat to him because he very well could have just said, nope, we don't play that game. We've done that for a million years. We're not bending over for you, blah, blah, blah. And he was willing to have some humility and actually understand that, hey, maybe I jumped the gun on that Jordan Love pick. This guy's not that bad. He's still kicking pretty well. And I should probably make things right. And even if you look at it from today's perspective and you want to or don't look at it from today's perspective, flash forward a little bit and you look at potential free agents who look at Green Bay, Wisconsin, and they look at the GM, they look at the chaos that happened, and they start seeing the fact that there is somewhat of a culture change. There's a little bit of a titleist change, if you will, when it comes to what the GM is doing. If they run Aaron Rodgers out and it's bad, whether it's Aaron Rodgers' fault or it's Brian Gutekunst's fault, we don't know. But if it never got resolved and it went down the way that it did, and you had the Favre situation, how adamant are these free agents going to be who probably originally don't want to already come to Green Bay, Wisconsin, but how much more are they going to be like, no way am I coming here? I'm probably just going to get screwed over at some point. I think it set up a good level of future, good things for us, if you will. I don't know how to say it any better, but so in that regard, I'm glad he did it. I'm proud that they were able to admit that. And I think when it comes to players around the league and players in that locker room, I don't think it opens up a door for everybody doing that, because I think everybody collectively knows Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. And I think everybody knows Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. There's a few people in the NFL that have ever been around that have that ability or have that say, if you will. And I think they allowed that.
Yeah, I mean, just like what Joe said right here, I think everybody that's not a football person understands what these guys are doing. Players understand that players are great players. When people say this guy sucks or this guy's not good, let me just tell you this right now. I just watched a video of Brian Scalabrine, who was barely a great basketball player, but obviously a folk hero in the Boston world. And then I saw he had the Scalabrine challenge, and he outweighed every hooper out there. And that's the thing about these athletes. They're better than anybody else. When all these fans and the media are like, oh yeah, this guy's not that good, everybody around them, all the players have the respect for him. And that goes the same thing with front office guys. They know what the grind is. They understand what how hard it is to juggle personalities, egos, manage a roster, manage the scouting department. I mean, everything as a GM can do. He probably is getting a bunch of high fives and hey dude, you didn't screw this up. There's plenty of guys that probably could have screwed this up and you didn't. So I think that speaks volumes.
And I think it's funny because, for most of us, when we first see this, we think to ourselves, oh man, Goody, you did it. You didn't screw up the situation with Rodgers. And I think maybe I'm wrong, but I bet Goody went back to his desk and thought, whatever, the Aaron Rodgers shit, I actually put myself in position for future free agents, for future draft picks, for future whatever. And I think he thought about it in not selfishly, but to a point kind of selfishly, in the sense of the Aaron Rodgers thing is a perfect way for me to show people that Green Bay is willing to work with you and you're, whatever. So for me, I like that he did it. I don't know if his 100% intentions were just to help out Rodgers. I do think there was some intention for himself. But either way, I think it put us all in a good situation, and I'm actually pretty impressed with it.
Well, and people need to chill out with the Gutekunst sucks or he needs to be replaced or fired or whatever. It's take this situation aside. He's done a great job with assembling talent. The team's been to 2 straight championship games. He had a hand in hiring Matt LaFleur, bringing some of these free agents. And yeah, we'll critique him until the cows come home, with the Love pick and that draft. But other than that, he's been pretty good. So I think people need to understand, and your point was, Sanjay and Joe, that the people in the inner circles of the NFL know that Brian Gutekunst is good at his job, and that he has been, fulfilling his, what he's been there to do. So I don't buy any of this stuff that he needs to be replaced.
No. All right, guys. So I think we probably got most of everything have covered from whatever happened today. I don't really want to get too much into the Randall Cobb thing because I don't know how like definitive that kind of stuff is. I don't really want to go based off Trey Wingo. So we'll just move past that. I mean, if more things happen, we'll bring that up in another show. But you guys can play with those rumors all you want, but we go based off facts here. So if
Do we?
I mean, we don't.
Okay, all right.
We don't at all. Absolutely not. I just wanted to look cool. So let's talk about training camp because that obviously does start this week. Now that we know who's under center, at least maybe in the season, I don't know what he's going to be doing in training camp, but there's clarity now. So now this distraction, which is still technically a distraction, can be at least resolved in the sense of, look, okay, let's get back to work and let's grind and let's get back to that NFC Championship game because the NFC is not getting any easier. Everybody obviously they're getting back to being healthy. People are getting better with draft and free agency. Like that's how the year goes, right? That's how the offseason goes. You're trying to make yourself better. It's not like you're trying to make yourself worse. So this is obviously a moment where this is now, hey, let's get back to the grind. Let's get away from this whole Rodgers thing. Fred, on your thought, at least with training camp, is there something that you want to see? Obviously, I know the biggest thing is Jordan Love. I know that. But, like, apart from Jordan Love, is there something that you're looking to see, that kind of, like, would catch your eye now that we can see, like, what's going to be happening, whether 12 is there or not, but we at least know he'll probably be there for this season?
Yeah, man, it feels like we've spent so much time harboring the Aaron Rodgers situation that I feel like a lot of the rest of it's kind of gotten pushed aside.
Do
you
remember who we drafted? Do you remember who we drafted?
No, I do. But realistically, like I guess if I can kind of divert a little bit from that, I'm very interested to see just the locker room in general. But ultimately, I think our focus has been for the last couple of years and is going to continue to remain on that defense. And the steps that they're going to continue to take, I think they're actually taking the right steps. I am interested to see just the new defense in general under Joe Barry. I'm interested to see how much, and we've talked about this in years past, and I think this might be the first year that we actually see it. The relationship and where Preston, Za'Darius, and Gary end up. We talk about that all the time because I truly believe that Gary is going to surpass both Smiths this year. And that's not a knock on either one of them. I think Za'Darius is still fantastic. I think he's a leader, and I think we'll probably keep Za'Darius. But I'm very excited to see how that all kind of plays out. If someone ends up on the line, someone gets pushed back. And then I think just seeing Stokes, I'm super jacked about him. I was very excited about him. I had him in my list of people I wanted us to draft. We ended up drafting him. Holy crap. And his ability, without having to be the number one, is super exciting because I think he can play into that. I mean, realistically, he could be the 3 for a little while, play some nickel, and then kind of move around. So yeah, it all kind of stems with the defense because offensively, we kind of know what we're doing. We kind of know who we are. But yeah, I would say most of my focus remains on that defense initially.
Yeah. Defense is big. Guys, we're returning a team pretty much the same team that went to the NFC Championship game. Not a lot of loss. There's a couple guys we lost, but we added back, re-signed guys we didn't think we were going to re-sign. So to me, this training camp is about dotting those I's and crossing those T's and shoring up some spots as you go into the season because this team should be ready to rock and roll, right out of the gate. They're built for it. They have the talent for it, and they have the experience in the system for it. So, but I want to look at the O-line, like. David Bakhtiari. What is this guy laughing at, by the way? Did I tell a joke? I don't
know.
I heard crossing I's or crossing T's and dotting I's, and I'm just you're perfect.
I said dotting I's and crossing T's, didn't I?
PR. Like you have coaches speak, like ready and continue.
Back to the fundamentals. Back to the fundamentals.
I got you. Fun of the bit. Yeah, it's just the first show. I can't get too crazy right now. I gotta stick to what I know.
Go.
But the offensive line, they had a couple of departures. You lose Rick Wagner, David Bakhtiari. Is he going to start the year in the PUP list? Is he not? We don't really know yet. That's a huge thing that we're going to have to pay attention to, because the offense, obviously gearing towards, the running backs, you're going to have Dillon playing a larger role. And then we see what the Packers look like when Aaron Rodgers does not have time to sit back and pass or read a defense. It gets pretty ugly pretty quick. So that's a huge thing that I'm watching. And then as Fred pointed out, the defense, how do they come under with Joe Barry first year? Probably the most talent he's ever had on as a defensive coordinator, I would think. He's got a lot of pieces to play with. But specifically, I'm watching out for Rashawn Gary, because I do agree with Fred. I think that he's going to push the Za'Darius and Preston to be kind of the leader of that group. And then I want to watch the secondary mature and grow. I know they brought Kevin King back, but I still think Stokes, maybe by mid-year is the starter. How does Jair take another leap? Can he get better? The safety is developing, so that the defense is going to take this team as far as the offense can. I mean, really, they should be the lead on both at this point. And I'm excited to see what Joe Barry can do.
I've got corner on my mind because you do have that stout corner out there. But then you really have a lot of question mark because you brought back Kevin King. And as Matt said in our text, what was the benefit in explaining that you spent $6 million on Kevin King, returning him back. But obviously Stokes is a big time, draft pick, obviously, using a first round pick on a kid that obviously has nothing but speed. But can he hone that speed and understand how to cover a wide receiver? Because it's not always about speed. Now it's a big factor, but it's also, movement, shuffling your feet, understanding where their hips are going, understanding where their eyes are going too. That stuff all plays into it. And can this kid, which usually rookies can't really do it, but can he learn quicker and make himself a viable option or a tool in the defense? Maybe he's not a starter, but at least he could maybe be a guy that you can rely on a good amount of snaps. Maybe you put him in that star role. Maybe he's in the slot. I don't know. But cornerback for me is a position I'm just kind of interested to watch because I already know what Jair Alexander can do, and I would love to see what his next step will be.
What's the next year look like?
Exactly. So that's what I'm looking for. Obviously, yes. The general, look at it is Joe Barry himself, and what is he going to bring? Like you said, Matt, the best roster that he's probably ever had as a defensive coordinator, or probably even as a coach in the league. So that's a lot to see as well. So I'm, Matt LaFleur, I'm not really worried about. More so, just hey, can you get some good chemistry with Jordan Love as a play caller? Can they, vibe and understand how to work a game, call a game and, run the offense that he wants. So that's a big look. Obviously we'll see that in the preseason, but yeah, so we'll see what those kind of things. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, you brought a good point. You said Matt LaFleur. I mean, I think that's a good call out because now you're going into year 3. You were guns a-blazing last year. People didn't know which way to look when you were out there on offense. How do you keep that fresh? Can you put some more wrinkles in there to keep people, again, on their heels, not really knowing what you're going to do? Or are you going to start to get, a little bit predictable? I don't think that's going to be the case. He seems like a pretty innovative guy, and they got enough guys there to do it. But that's a huge thing, too, is, how do you keep the offense evolving without letting teams kind of start to figure out what you're trying to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So
when I think you get a couple, you bring in Dillon, that brings another wrinkle into the offense. You get Josiah into a full year potentially, that could bring a new wrinkle into the offense. And then you bring in a guy like Amari Rodgers, exactly, who I think could bring another huge wrinkle into that offense. So I definitely think there's some potential there. And
this guy right here is the ride to die.
Loves
ride to die with Devin Funches. This is beautiful segue.
He caught that world record ball, and now you're just stuck on him, huh?
This is the segue where we're gonna have Matt. It's like you knew what to do. So predictions to close out our show, guys. I'm gonna start out with Matt. And Matt, your prediction that Devin Funches makes the 52-man roster through training camp and into the season. Do you think it happens?
Book it. He's gonna be on the active 40 whatever it ends up being on game 1. He's gonna be out there. You don't think so?
I'm gonna go no, because
why not?
If this Randall Cobb thing happens, who's gonna?
Oh, you said you didn't want to talk about hypotheticals. We want to talk about facts here.
Okay, yeah. We're talking about facts. All right, so fine, not Randall Cobb. So
I don't know. Maybe they want to keep 5 tight ends. They love these tight ends,
well.
and he's basically a tight end at this point. I don't know. Like he just put
Dude,
it.
he looks lean, ready to go. Like he looks like he's been, nothing but working out for 2 years. So
I know. I want to applaud the guy that hasn't played football in 2 years. That he obviously wants to come back and play, and he's excited. He's probably said the best quote of the offseason. I wish we had that clip, but he basically stated, look, we can't worry about what's happening with Aaron Rodgers. We got to worry about the guys that are out here that are wanting to work and are ready to play. And the 11 guys that are here, those are the guys that we're going to worry about. Like that was a beautiful quote that he said in a press conference that he had. And you know what? That's the kind of stuff you need to hear from a 5th receiver of your depth chart. That's the kind of mentality we need all the guys, even the starters, not just the bench guys that are trying to earn a spot, but starters too that already have it. You have to have the mentality that your job is never safe. I don't care if you're Bakhtiari, if you're Aaron Rodgers or whoever. You always have to have that mentality in this world of sports because there's always someone better that's looking to get their shot and then, try to make a name for themselves. So, Fred, prediction. Aaron Rodgers is the QB of the Green Bay Packers in 2022.
wow.
I would say
prediction. It's a horrible one, but
I would say that the only way that I would feel confident in that is if we won the Super Bowl. Otherwise, I think the seeds have been so planted that I'm not sure. Like, how can they like resolve all the like issues that they have in this season? Like, that's the thing. Like they said, they're going to review it at the end of the season. Like what's going to change this season?
What?
Unless it's like it's like a constant like change, and ultimately what happens when Rodgers walks into the facility and he has to walk past Gutekunst? Like, is there an awkward moment? Does Rodgers do they embrace each other? Do they say hi? Because clearly there is a power move between the two of them, whether or not we want to admit it or not. So it's interesting because I don't know what that's all gonna kind of play out to be. Now, if Gutekunst brings him in and says, "Hey, dude, I fucked up. I screwed up. I probably shouldn't have taken Love. I probably, I probably should have approached this differently. Yeah, and I'm sorry." Then maybe and he's like, "Hey, maybe I want to let's listen to some of the things you want to talk about." That could change the whole dynamic, and we could see Rodgers for another 3-4 years. Will that happen? I have no idea. So to answer your question, I would say.
Thanks, Matt.
Probably not, but there's definitely opportunity for him to come back.
Hey, I love your sentiment, but they went how many times out to California and they didn't ever hug it out? What were you doing over there? Because I'm just wondering if you didn't do it then, I don't know what you're going to be doing for doing it differently. I'm not. I'm optimistic.
Well, they were probably
Business.
Being businessy, being political, being whatever, on the sense of we weren't just going to go out there and, shower him with stuff. They probably wanted to see how serious he was and where his mindset actually was. So I guess I'm not that weirded out. And maybe they just thought it was a contract thing. And that's, something that they tried to approach. And then they realized, oh, this is not a contract thing. This is about somebody wanting to have their own future figured out or change some culture situations.
Some grievances too. If it is all about grievances, there's nothing you can't rewrite history and say, "Oh, I'm sorry that I cut Jordy," or "I'm sorry that I cut Randall." They're already gone. So.
Well, and the thing is, it's not catastrophic grievances. It's not like Goody slept with his mom. He literally there was a Kumaro situation. You know what I mean? Right, but it's not oh my gosh, you're my new stepfather. That's not gonna that's not the situation. So,
Joe.
Beautiful content. Hey, watch these videos when we get to Sweep Studios. Go check out our page. Matt, real quick, prediction: Devontae Adams will be the highest paid wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers by the end of the season.
Oh God, I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say that.
Well, he's already the highest paid receiver.
You mean the league?
Who's
higher paid than the Packers than him at receiver?
He's not even paid yet, guys.
Well, but who on the current?
He's still making more than MVS.
Sorry, the highest paid receiver in the NFL.
Oh, you said Packers.
So
okay,
I
said Packers.
He would be on the roster of the Green Bay Packers, but he's the highest paid of the NFL.
All right.
Yes, he would be clearly the one.
I'm going to say yes. They're on a spending spree. What's that? What's money? Do it. Do it.
Exactly. What is money? Right. We got like we got a couple minutes here. So yeah, guys, this was really fun. Obviously, everybody that's in the chat, I know we kind of got to some of your stuff. If we highlight it up on the the screen that we're looking at it, so we had so much to talk about today. So we apologize that if we didn't get to all of your guys' comments, but follow us obviously next week when we're back at it. When there's probably just
wait,
but yeah.
Hey, does Bobby Touchdowns have 10+ touchdowns this year?
No.
What?
Does Bobby Touchdowns? Does he make the 52-man roster?
Are you
high?
Yeah. What?
Just spit facts, bro.
Does he play? Does he play more than 8 games?
It's the first show back.
Does he play more than 8 games?
This is ridiculous.
I got no.
Guess what, people? Guess what? Sanjay's shaving his head again this year. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, there might be some shaving heads, maybe shaving eyebrows, maybe doing little
Maybe hot chili peppers.
I don't know. I do that pepper, man. That was. First off, we got to stop saying Sanjay. I think the people really want to see Matt or Fred do something because
they don't.
I'm tired of being
they don't. They really don't.
Oh, let's get our fun and laughs from the brown guy. So
see, I can't do that. So you're the man.
Yeah, sounds funny.
Imagine your little Superman haircut being shaved off, huh? Imagine that, huh?
I'm not Superman anymore. I don't want to do that.
Hey, I will have a bet sometime. I did not want to do it the first show. That would just be very bad.
We gotta wait for some games.
For some exactly. Games. I mean, we're still spicy here, but hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, from the bottom of Fred, Matt, and I's heart, we do enjoy doing this for you guys. It was, at first we were kind of like, man, we're not really excited about doing this show in the sense of like, because there was so much drama.
Ho-hum, glum stuff to talk about, yeah.
But then we realized, obviously it helped that there was a huge breaking news today, but like we realized that, look, the three of us, we have something awesome here because of you guys. And we're like, you know what? We should just do it for them. Regardless if there was nothing to talk about, we should do it for them. And we should do it for the fact that the Freezer Podcast is something that you guys look forward to on your weekly, evenings. So thank you so much for joining us. Now we're on Monday nights full time. So check us out, 7:00. Don't go anywhere because you know what? We're going to be here every single week. And we have a lot of cool things coming up for you at the beginning of the year. So watch for that as well. So we have a lot of surprises that we have on our schedule. So you guys have anything else you want to say?
No, man. I'm ready. Ready to rock. Good to go.
With that being said, I'm Sanjay.
I'm Matt.
I'm Fred.
Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.